In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how you can improve your essay writing to the point where it takes you to become the top 1% of writers in your cohort, just like I did. If you look at the link I've attached below, I've attached a sample of the essay that I wrote for my RJC preliminary examinations in 2007, and for that essay, I scored enough to get me to the 99th percentile of my cohort, which means that I was top 1% for general paper essay writing in 2007. Now, today I'm here to show you how you can do the same. So if you look at the link below, the essay is attached there. Take a read through the essay, and then as I go through the essay and the video with you, look at how you can improve your own essay. So, are you ready to go? Have you read the essay? Let's start with step number 1. In this 5-step process, the first step is the simplest and the easiest to follow. Let famous people argue your essay for you. Take a look at the pictures of the famous men behind me. Barack Obama, Stanford Raffles, Minister Mentor Lee Kuan Yew. Now, think about it. Wouldn't it be great if you can let one of these illustrious, famous men argue your essay for you? For me, at that point of time, that's what I thought to myself. Why would anyone want to listen to what an 18-year-old has to say about politics, about economics, about society in general? But I'm sure my examiners would have been very interested to know what these men would have thought about the issues of the day. So if you look through the essay, I start off with a quote from Lord Acton, and he says that people fear what they do not understand. Throughout the essay, I give various different quotes from various different famous people, and I let them argue my essay for me. Now, what this does for you is that it provides credibility, it provides content, and it provides value. And what do these 3 things do for you in your examiner's eyes? When they see these 3 things, they automatically start to think that there is more credibility, more content, and more value in your essay, and thus they start to have a better impression of you and start to give you higher marks, higher content marks, which is essential to getting to the top 1%. Now, number 2, you need to organize your thoughts. But not just organize your thought in any manner that you please. It's the examination time. You have to organize your thought quickly, you have to organize them effectively, and you have to organize them decisively. So the minute you step into the examination hall, you pick your question, you have to know, you must know what you want to say and how you want to say it. So if you look through the essay that I sent you in the link below, it's very clear that when I sat down and I looked at the question whether or not China was a threat, there were 3 things that I wanted to address. 1, China as a security threat. 2, China as an economic threat. And 3, China as an environmental threat. So with these 3 things in mind, I began to plan my essay, and I began to think that for every threat, for every person who perceives China as a threat, there must be someone else who perceives it otherwise. Which brings me to step 4. You need to provide multiple perspectives on every single issue that you address. So say for example, since I divided my essay into China as a security threat, I first began to talk about how people perceive China to be a security threat. And then I moved on to rebut what most people think these proletariats, this inferior species of people, and I start to show my readers what China actually is. That maybe it's actually not a security threat. Maybe in reality, maybe my version of the reality is different from their perceived truth. So I began to show that I'm drawing a distinction between what people think is the truth and what I think is the real truth in reality. So this is how you want to frame it. You want to frame what other people are saying as perceived truth and what you were saying as, in fact, this is reality. So if you look at how I organized it, it was very simple. Security threat, economic threat, environmental threat. And then you go on to give what other people think and what you think of each of these issues. So now you have broadly categorized your ideas into 6 big ideas. Just throw in your notes, throw in your ideas into your mind map or your brainstorming, those boxes. Then create some boxes, 1 box for each issue, and from there you start to fill up the big picture and get an idea of how you want to move the content of your essay. Alright, now that we're done with organization, let's talk about using part 4, using global, real-life examples that have a large amount of scale. So you find it throughout the essay. I'm talking about things like terrorism, Al-Qaeda. I'm talking about how the actions of 1.6 billion Chinese people can affect the rest of the world. Now what this does for you is that it gives the examiner the idea that you are a worldly wise person. Right? You don't want to be talking about what your next door neighbor, Mr. Tan, Mr. Tan. You don't want to be talking about what your next door neighbor, Mr. Tan, thinks about China and whether or not it's a threat, because unless your next door neighbor is Mr. Tan Kim Lian or some other famous Tans like Tony Tan, chances are nobody really cares about what your neighbor thinks. So give some real life examples. Talk about population statistics, talk about how the actions of China impacts the rest of the world. I think you get my idea. Now, lastly, before you end off, point number 5, you need to think about how you can question the question. And what it is that if you look at the question about China being the world's greatest threat, there are certain inherent underlying assumptions that you must bring out to light and you must question. And there are the use of some extreme qualifiers, such as one of the most serious. And you'll see me talk about that in the second last paragraph of the essay before I come to my conclusion. What this does for you is that it helps to tear apart the underlying assumptions at the end of the essay, and it gives what this does is that it gives the examiner the impression that you are a thinking student. You're not just analyzing the question on a superficial level, that you think deeper and go into the underbelly of the question and you question things that other students don't question. So if you have done steps 1, 2, 3 and 4, then now this is the cherry on top of your essay, on top of that ice cream, that sundae of awesomeness that is your essay, that differentiates you as the A student from the B students. Get that? Now before we go, I have one last thing to address. You'll notice that throughout this essay, the quotations that I use, if you actually went and bothered to Google them, they might not be 100% accurate. Take for example the quotation by Lord Acton. It wasn't actually said by Lord Acton, it was said by Bruce Lee. Bear in mind that this was a time when I was young and rebellious and ready to push the boundaries of essay writing and ready to test the knowledge of my educators. So this was not an actual A-level exam, it was just the RJC prelims. So I decided to go out on a limb and take a risk and be playful with my teachers. If I were you though, and I was taking the A-levels, I wouldn't put fake quotes into my essay. Get the idea? So now that we have talked about how you can practice and put into practice these 5 easy steps to take you to a better level of writing, I hope you implement these ideas and you do well for your A-level exams. Thank you for watching.